Hi, my name is Rithika, and we are going to yap about all things growth and hiring, getting interviews in 2026 while I make my smoothie bowl. So, I graduated sometime around 2023 with peak recession and AI just starting to loom in the corner on everyone's jobs. I sent out hundreds of applications and barely getting any responses. Stay till the end, and you will find a foolproof way of getting interviews, if not jobs, in 2026, especially if you're in growth. 3 years in growth and marketing, understanding the ropes. This video is all about how I actually broke into growth and why growth might be one of the most underrated careers in tech, especially if you're a non-tech person, and how you can get that interview. I'm new here. I have always been documenting, but I've never posted anything. We are changing that with this video, just as a way for me to look back on my learnings and unlearnings as I climb my corporate ladder or career garden, as the trend goes today. So let's get started. Let's start with what is growth. Most people know performance marketing, brand marketing, social media marketing, but growth marketing is slightly more underrated, and most of my own people don't know what I do for a living. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about what actually growth is and what you do on a day-to-day basis. So simply put, you are running a bunch of experiments to build a repeatable system to scale the business, optimizing for the most important metric, which is typically revenue in most businesses and startups. So that is a one-liner on growth, and especially in the AI world, I think growth is a huge opportunity. You can see almost every other startup hiring for scrappy growth marketeer because you are driving one of the most important metric of that particular business. That is on growth. Now moving to landscape, a little about the segments and what are the roles within growth. Firstly, we have a growth marketeer. You are usually a generalist here, doing the full funnel thinking, right from acquisition all the way to retention. If you're new to marketing, definitely look up what marketing funnels are. Next up is growth engineer. Essentially, you are running a lot of experiments, but with automations and different tools. This is coined by this product called Clay. You can definitely go check their blogs. You'll understand a lot about how the role is evolving as well. Next, we have product-led growth. As the word goes, product-led growth is essentially the product doing the selling for you. Think products like Notion, Figma, Claude, ChatGPT. All of these guys are product-led growth products. So you are essentially optimizing for the user to move through that entire funnel. Next, we have sales-led growth. Growth is fueled by sales here, and as a growth marketer, you are sending qualified leads or demos to the sales team, and you do any and all experiments to moving off that pipeline as easy as possible. Then we have content-led growth. This again is slightly more new. As you know, SaaS products and B2B has known to be a little more boring. So if you can make unique content that holds people's attention, then content-led growth is a great way to break into SaaS. Think SEO, thought leadership content, having a lot of content flywheels via social media is what content-led growth is all about. Now, the good news is you probably have a lot of adjacent skills that map directly to one of these roles, right? If you're a content writer, you can transition to content-led growth quite easily. If you're a developer, growth engineer is a viable option for you if you don't like to code, or if you're not as passionate about coding as people around you are. So you don't always have to start from zero, and that's a great news. Then moving on, we are talking about how you can niche and pick the right company and sector to be in. There are 3 questions that will help you navigate this. Firstly, who your end customer is going to be. Do you like to service a B2B customer or a B2C customer? Because both of them are worlds apart. Then what stage of the company do you like to be in? Early stage or late stage, scaling startups or MNCs. Again, your learning curve and your that's a personal preference. Early starts typically mean you have a lot of ownership, also means long hours. You have a very steep learning curve, right? Versus an MNC where it's slightly more longer because of how the cycles are there. Then we have what products do you like to work in? Is that going to be SaaS? Is it maybe a marketplace? Or do you like to work in agencies? E-com as well. So again, you can decide based off what products you like to work in. Once you have answered all of these 3 questions, you will have your niche. Now, please don't apply everywhere. That is definitely the wrong way of going about things, which I resolved to early in my career. And once you have answered these questions, you'll have a short list, and go about finding about 30 to 50 companies, understanding what their JDs ask for. You can find patterns and pull these recurring requirements that they have, and that's how you can also work on your skill roadmap to ensure you have the right skills for these jobs, right? Then the next section of the video is how I actually broke into growth. Now, this is a pretty unconventional way of applying to jobs, and honestly one of the most important segments of the video. Like I said, I was unable to find the right role for me at least a year into graduation, and this is advice I wish someone told me, because I was applying with resumes and cover letters like everyone else, and if you're a fresher, no one is really looking at it, right? And I didn't know any better back then, so hey, here we are. So instead of doing that, what you can do is make a Loom video or a Miro board, something more personal to each business or startup or brand that you're applying to, right? What I did was I made a custom deck wherein I spoke about what I've done so far, what I bring to the table, my skill set, etc. And then I customized it based on the startup's colors, their fonts, their brand language, some sort of a personal touch about something that I came across from their content or something like that, right? Doing this research helps because you're essentially stalking them like your ex, so do that, it really helps. So each video had two things. Firstly, what I had done so far that will help them understand, okay, is this person the right fit for what I'm looking for? And then next is what they can expect if they got on a call with me. I showed them what hiring me would look like, and the math here gets really simple at this point. Imagine if 100 people had applied to that job and maybe 10 of them do the take-home assignment or something that they ask for. If you send a custom Loom or a deck or a Miro board, you stand out from that entire crowd and you become one in that 100. So that is how you flip your hit rate. And from hundreds of applications that I was putting out with almost zero responses, I was doing just 10 targeted pitches and I was getting enough interviews which are a lot more high quality in terms of the role itself and the kind of startups that I would want to work for. Because firstly, you start competing on initiative and not on resumes, which by the way is one of the soft skills that people look for if you're in growth. So that is one of the ways you can definitely look at applying. And if it worked out for you, please do let me know. If there's anything I can, if you want to chat about it, I'd be happy to help. Okay, my smoothie bowl is coming along. Let's move on to the next segment on skills and resources. So you don't have a lot of degrees specifically for this, so there are a lot of courses that you can take up which are a lot more intensive compared to degrees, honestly. So I definitely recommend CXL, Reforge, and there is also Lenny's podcast if you're looking for a free resource to understand the industry, the landscape, and just some insight into what growth practitioners do. Then the last thing is definitely go and build your portfolio, write about everything that you learn, make those LinkedIn posts, a newsletter, a Substack, or tear down of a company's growth strategy, whatever the case is, just document everything. And this will serve you well while hiring. And there is also a really good resource by Khushi. She is a growth operator from India. I almost consider her an equivalent to India's Elena Verna. So I really enjoy her content, and she has this resource where you can filter the courses based on the time and amount you want to spend on that particular course. If you're in growth product or growth marketing, definitely go watch her out. Yeah, that's about it. I got in purely because I was shameless enough to DM the founder and the growth lead, audacious enough to pitch like I've already been hired, and valuable enough that they wanted to get on a call with me. So if you're early in your career, I would definitely recommend you to try a different approach if the existing ways aren't working for you, and stop applying like everyone else with resumes and cover letters, please. So that's about it. Be shameless, be audacious, and deliver value. My smoothie is ready. I'm gonna go dig in. That's the gist of the video. I hope you had some learnings from this. Please do leave some comments, like, share, and subscribe, because that's going to be really helpful for me. Until next time, bye.